Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we are going to talk about Robin. We're not going to talk about Dick, or Jason, or Tim, or even Damian. Today, we are going to explore the possibilities of other characters taking up the mantle of the Boy Wonder. No universe is off limits. DC, Marvel, IDW, you name it. I needed some help coming up with ideas, so today I am joined by Freddy or Not.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Now, with characters like Spider-Man, it said anyone can wear the mask. But is the same true for the Boy Wonder? I'm not so sure about that. I feel there are certain qualities that can make someone a good Robin.
Now, obviously, they need to be strong and smart enough for the job, while also not overshadowing Batman.
Right. They also need to be someone who can work well with Bruce. You know, either someone fun like Dick to balance out his dark, or someone who needs his guidance to keep off a dark path like Jason or Damian. Obviously, they should be someone who, by working with Batman, can become a hero worthy of standing on their own. No one wants a sidekick who's the main character, you know what I mean?
So today, we've created a list of the 10 characters we feel best embody this criteria. Now, if you guys enjoyed the video at any point today, we'd really appreciate it if you smashed that like and subscribe button. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop into some honorable mentions.
Now, we can't talk Robins without mentioning Bucky. I mean, he's basically just Red Hood, but for Captain America.
And then we also have characters like Ben 10, who should, in theory, fit the Robin archetype perfectly. He's young, he's powerful, but I think he might be too powerful, and he's definitely way too stubborn for Bruce. Too much main character energy.
Nah, for real, I feel like if Batman met Ben 10, he'd be out there asking for his autograph.
Well, that actually did happen.
Can I have your autograph?
You want my autograph? Yes, of course, son.
Speaking of things that have already happened, did you know Batman once asked Velma to be Robin? Said no, though, because I mean, you can't even keep track of her glasses. There's no way she's handling Gotham.
But, I mean, Batman and Scooby-Doo have crossed over so many times, so we just had to mention them, but with how much that they would make Alfred cook for them, I don't think that they would be welcome in Wayne Manor for very long. Another great honorable mention would have to be Spider-Man, but again, a lot like Ben 10, he is way too much of a main character, and also, he doesn't really handle having mentors well. I mean, if you look at Tom Holland Spider-Man, sure, he's got tons of mentors. That's pretty much all he does. But if you're looking at Spider-Man in the comics, he kind of hates other superheroes if they're not the Fantastic Four.
Maybe Spider-Man will want to join Bruce once he mentions that Wayne Trust Fund, but besides that, this probably isn't a good pick. We also thought about a scenario with Batman training Sokka. You know, with Batman being the guy who's famous for not having powers and Sokka being the famous non-bender in a world of benders, the relationship could work well between the two. But it'd be too complicated working that into the story of Avatar, so probably best as just a hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, even though Batman doesn't have powers, I do feel like if he joined the Avatar universe, he would just immediately master all the bending because he's Batman. All right, now with those honorable mentions out of the way, let's hop into the actual list. Now, these are not going to be in any particular order, so, you know, if we happen to say, oh, number 7, it's not actually number 7. None of these are going to be better than the others. You can, you know, decide that for yourself. But starting off the list, we have Billy Batson, Shazam. I hate calling him that. He's still Captain Marvel to me. Now, Billy Batson is a hero in his own right and is far from needing to become anyone's sidekick. But what if Billy Batson lost his powers or was deemed unworthy of the mantle of Shazam? Billy could reach out to Batman, wanting to continue to be a hero and prove himself without the godlike powers. This would make for a really fun miniseries where Billy Batson temporarily becomes the new Robin. Bruce would train him, teaching him new skills and bring him into the field on missions, and Billy would eventually prove himself worthy again and regain his abilities. But now he has all of the skills that Batman taught him, and he would be an even more formidable crime fighter. This kind of arc could do a lot of good for both characters. Billy could learn a crap ton about self-control and the value of patience, but also bring back a little bit of light into Batman's cave again.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a great pick. I mean, Shazam is someone who's a hero, so he's already on Batman's level in terms of, like, prestige, at least in the Justice League. But him being a kid offers the interesting dynamic, and he already wears red. No, I feel like Batman can definitely put the wisdom of Solomon to good use, especially since he acts like a kid half the time.
Now, one thing I think would be really interesting with this story is the effect that being stuck as a kid would have on Billy, because he's used to being a superhero, and he's probably got a little bit of an ego because of that. And, you know, being stuck as a kid again would be a huge ego check for him. And I don't know, it would be really interesting to see him struggle with that as a character because he's so used to being all powerful and, you know, Shazam.
Next up on the list, we got a bit of an unusual pick because there are actually several people. We have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer, especially since the TMNT and Batman have crossed over like 5 times already, if not more. Now, there are several versions of the TMNT here. If I had to pick some that would do the best in this role, I would definitely go with the 2003 Michelangelo, as he quite famously wanted to be a superhero, if you remember the Turtle Titan. And Mutant Mayhem Leonardo quite literally is obsessed with Batman. Over the years, you may have noticed, but the 4 TMNT have basically just become the 4 Robins. Leo is basically just Nightwing, Raph is Red Hood, Donnie is Tim Drake, and I guess Mikey is Damian.
Yeah, they do not line up at all.
No, but they are the youngest, so.
If I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think they're cool, but they never grabbed me. However, I do think that Shredder would make an excellent Batman villain, and I do know that they have fought, so I think this would work.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, you gotta think, they were trained by Splinter, who's like this wise ninja sensei. Imagine a TMNT crossover where Splinter trained Bruce Wayne when he was a kid. You can really play around with it and have some fun.
What do he call himself? Rat Man?
Next up, we have a bit more of a traditional pick. Actually, someone who's already part of the Bat family. We have the original Batgirl, Betty Kane. Now, Betty Kane is kinda in desperate need of a mentor, if we're being honest here. Plus, I feel like this would be a good way of going full circle on Betty's character. After all, the main reason she became Batgirl was because she wanted to be like Dick Grayson, and then became Flamebird for the same reason, with Flamebird actually being Nightwing's partner from the old Kryptonian legend where Nightwing gets his name. But she has been disregarded and forgotten over the years, to the point that even Nightwing once told her to give up being a hero. She basically now just shows up every now and again to be like, hey, we should do Titans West again. Maybe all she's missing is the fundamentals. Maybe she can be like Nightwing by following in his footsteps as Robin, until Flamebird can truly be seen as someone equal to Nightwing, like she always wanted to be.
Now, even though I'm the Batman guy over on my channel, I actually don't really know anything about Betty Kane. I gotta say, her Batgirl costume looks like absolute garbage, but her Flamebird outfit is actually kind of cool. I might be open to seeing more of this. All right, next up on the list, we have some characters from Death Note. Now, there have been countless YouTubers who have gone over the hypothetical situations on what if Batman, teamed up with L, or, could Batman solve the Kira case? But I'm not going to be talking about Kira or L. I want to talk about Nier and Mello. Now, these are the 2 kid detectives that took over the case after L passed away.
Now, I feel like Nier and Mello are very interesting picks. When a lot of people think of Robin, they're typically thinking of sad orphans or super athletic kid superheroes. But let's not forget, Batman is a detective. So, like you were saying with, can Batman solve the Kira case? Let's also think, can Batman be a better mentor than L? I mean, Nier and Mello also have a lot of interesting traits they bring to the field here. Nier is obviously super intelligent, but he's quite a passive character, while Mello, while still intelligent, is less so, but way more active, to the point that he's a tad extreme. But the whole narrative with these two is that when working together, they can surpass L. So imagine it, 2 Robins under Batman, but actually handled good for once.
I would actually like to see Damian interact with these 2. I think that there would just be so much ego in one room. It would be so entertaining to watch.
Can you imagine a Tim and Damian versus Nier and Mello dynamic? Oh my god. Next up, we have a character who's actually fought alongside the Boy Wonder. Someone who can literally turn into a Robin. Beast Boy. Now, Beast Boy is a legacy titan and a hero established as far back as 1965. So, why does it feel like he still hasn't come into his own? His powers are quite frankly crazy, with unique powers beyond just turning into animals, from turning into aliens, demons, chimeras, and even a Starro bigger than the planet, becoming the catalyst for the whole Beast World event. And yet, Beast Boy, with all this, is still getting smacked around by characters like Nightwing, Deathstroke, and Steel. The problem is partially, I feel, his name. He's still a boy. But in the event No Justice, we see him interact with Batman, where Batman takes on a sort of mentor role, giving him advice when he needed it, doing the same after the Beast World event. Maybe all he needs is a mentor, someone who can guide him to bring out his full potential and turn the Beast Boy to a Beast Man.
Yeah, I definitely feel like aging him up and letting him, become a mature adult would do wonders for his character. I mean, first off, yeah, the name is really limiting. Beast Boy. I mean, Robin was able to grow up and become Nightwing. A lot of the other Teen Titans have been able to grow up and create their own identities away from what they were in the Teen Titans. But Beast Boy, no. He's been the same since forever, and they even aged him down in the New 52, which just huge disservice to his character. All right, next up on the list, we have the main trio from Attack on Titan. I'm talking about Eren Yeager, Armand, and Mikasa. Now, I feel like these characters would make excellent Robins. They're highly trained in combat and military tactics. They're extremely intelligent, and also, the ODM gear have them moving around in the air like prime Dick Grayson. It's just insane.
Not to mention, their personalities really line up with some of the established Robin archetypes. We have bad boy Eren and super smart Armin, but Mikasa will be handling more of a Cassandra Kane type vibe.
I would actually say that Eren is a lot more like Damien than Jason. I mean, sure, Jason's a bad boy and he's, kind of edgy, but like Eren and Damien, at least in, Damien's early career, they both just wanted to kill everyone.
That brings another factor into the midst here. If Eren is still the Attack Titan, it will definitely make the story with Batman trying to rein him in a lot more interesting.
Now, of these three, I do feel like Armin probably has the most potential to be a good Robin for Batman, mostly because he's the least abrasive and aggressive. He would be the most open to receiving Batman's teachings and advice and training. And Eren, he's too much of a handful. Like, I would say Eren is way worse than Damien was when Batman took him in. And Mikasa would be a really skilled Robin. She would be on the same level as Cassandra Kane. However, her emotional attachment to Eren might limit her loyalty.
I feel like you're completely right. When it comes to Batman's Robin training, Armin is definitely the one who's most likely to dedicate his heart. We should also mention that the Scout's whole symbol is a bird, the wings of freedom. Perfect for a Robin.
Now, even though the main trio are taking up the spot on this list, I have to mention Levi Ackerman. I mean, he would be an excellent Robin, but I think some people forget that the dude is a 40-year-old man. Also, adding the main trio for Attack on Titan to Batman's roster of Robins would just be an excuse to give Batman the ODM gear, and I think we would all love to see that.
No, for real, it could definitely flesh out his arsenal. Speaking of arsenal, we have our next pick, Roy Harper. Roy Harper is Green Arrow's original sidekick, Speedy. He came to mind for a lot of different reasons. I'm sure we remember in the Teen Titans cartoon where he was frequently compared to Dick, or in the classic Teen Titans comics where he's described as more edgy than Dick, or in the New 52 where he was good friends with Jason Todd. On top of the fact that Green Arrow is basically just bargain bin Batman.
Now, we felt that Speedy was the best pick for this list, and we chose him over Bucky because Bucky Barnes is just way too obvious of a pick for an alternate Robin. Roy Harper is kind of a sleeper pick. I feel like a lot of people don't really think of him, but he's essentially just a knockoff Robin.
We also shouldn't underestimate his actual personality. He had a lot of problems growing up, especially with Green Arrow. Not to mention, I think it was an Infinite Frontier when they made him a Black Lantern because he had more suffering than anyone else. Roy Harper has had a slew of problems, from his parents dying to his rocky relationship with Oliver, to his heroin addiction, to losing his arm and losing his daughter. All situations in which Batman would be a far better mentor than Green Arrow. Think back to the days of "My ward is a junkie," where Oliver Queen basically just walked out on Roy, leaving him all alone in the time when he needed someone the most. While Batman is not someone to give up on a Robin.
Yeah, I mean, Oliver is just kind of a bad parent. I know a lot of people give Batman crap on the internet. They're like, oh, Batman's a bad dad, and all of his Robins are like, they have the most terrible lives because of him. But no, Oliver is way worse than Bruce. And if anything, Bruce would be way more understanding of Roy's situation if you go back to Batman Venom, a story where Batman gets addicted to the drug known as Venom. I just feel like Batman would have a lot more empathy for Roy's situation and wouldn't just walk out on him. All right, next up on the list, we have X-23, who is a partial clone of Wolverine. Now, Laura Kinney was raised in captivity and trained from childhood to be a living weapon. Sound familiar? She was subjected to brutal conditioning, including a trigger scent that would send her into a berserker rage, forcing her to kill anyone nearby. Lovely. Like Wolverine, she has a powerful healing factor, heightened senses, and retractable claws, 2 in each hand and 1 in each foot.
I feel like the big thing here with X-23 is how different of a mentor Batman is going to be compared to Wolverine.
Yeah, Batman is way more involved with his proteges than Wolverine is. Wolverine is basically just an absent father. He's not really around.
He went out for milk for real.
Now, the main reason why I actually wanted to include X-23 on this list was because of the fact that she's actually crossed over with Nightwing before. It happened recently in the Batman Deadpool crossover comic, and it's really interesting stuff. I love how they both talk about living up up to their mentors.
I feel like we should also mention that X-23 is Wolverine. She's not really a sidekick, even if people think of her as such. So putting her in an actual sidekick scenario where she's actually being mentored and trained will definitely be an interesting change of pace, and one that can benefit both characters.
Yeah, including her on this list may be a controversial pick, but you know, if you hate the idea of her, you know, being a Bat family member or like a Robin, maybe she could join the Titans and, you know, keep interacting with Nightwing. I think that would be pretty cool. All right, next up on the list, we have Mordecai and Rigby. Now, obviously, this would never happen. It's ridiculous. We would not see them suiting up as canonical Robins, but it would be funny, you know? And that's the only reason why we included them.
It would either be them not listening to Batman and getting fired, or fighting Darkseid. There's no in-between here.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that they would be in the early days of their training, and Batman asked them to do something as simple as sweeping the cave, and somehow they end up transporting themselves to the source wall, and they're fighting Lex Luthor out there or something. It would just be so funny.
Can you imagine them activating the boosters on the Batmobile? Or playing video games on the Bat computer, but they're actually controlling the Hellbat armor? It would be wild. This is gonna be a new level of training for Batman. Pure endurance.
I mean, just imagine it. Batman sends them out on patrol, and then they get distracted and spend the next hour hanging around a hot dog cart trying to get the guy to give them free hot dogs. All the while, a bank robbery is happening behind them, and they don't even notice it. Also, with how messy and destructive they are, you just have to imagine that Alfred would just hate their guts. Like, anytime that they're in the cave or in the manor, Alfred would just go hide somewhere, and he wouldn't come out until they're gone.
Let's be honest, these guys would probably be the worst Robins. Bruce would really only accept him on a dare. But speaking of dares, this is kind of an out there pick, but imagine an alternate universe where Batman mentors Matt instead of Stick. I mean, it's a perfect pairing. He's as blind as a bat.
Now, there's also a parallel between Dick Grayson and Matt Murdock. Both of their parents were athletes. Matt Murdock's father was a boxer, and Dick Grayson's parents were circus acrobats, and they were both murdered after refusing to comply with the mob.
Just imagine how these two would play off each other. I mean, Matt obviously has a violent streak in him, and which typically leads to him battling with his own guilt over it. Batman, with someone with the same strict moral code, would definitely be a good match to help through these feelings.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see how Matt Murdock would have ended up different based on the kind of teacher that he had. Stick obviously didn't have a no-kill rule. He was just killing everyone whenever it was convenient, and Batman has that strict rule. So would Matt still struggle with the same self-hatred and guilt if he had a teacher who shared his moral values?
And even if you want to see Matt as Daredevil, it could still work out in this case. Batman has been around for a long time, so we could definitely see Matt go from Robin to Daredevil, with maybe his red suit being a reference to his time as Robin. And it would work well on both ends as well. With all the problems in Gotham City, I'm sure having a good lawyer on his side would definitely be a great asset for Batman.
Plus, I mean, if you want to tell a story where Matt Murdock takes over as the Batman, his powers are kind of perfect for the role. Echolocation, like he's literally a bat.
No, really, Matt Murdock with money? Lethal combination.
And with how skilled Daredevil is already, imagine that kind of skill and those kind of powers, but under the tutelage of Bruce Wayne. Just, he would be unstoppable.
And that's without talking about the out-of-universe things they share in common, like writers from Frank Miller to Chip Zdarsky. It's a match made in heaven.
Especially when they both have secret society villains to fight, like the Hand versus the League of Assassins. There are so many parallels. Now, out of all the characters on this list, I really do feel like Daredevil has the most potential when it comes to becoming Robin. Obviously, this would happen when he's a kid. We wouldn't see adult Matt Murdock being Robin. That would be weird. Alright guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, and drop in the comments down below which character you think would make a good Robin. Let's talk about it.
Yep, and don't forget to subscribe to Nemo. And if you want to see more of me, be sure to hop on over to my channel. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
Oh yeah, until next time, we'll see you guys later.